But here in the US, I just feel like it's expected to just do it all.
What's so hard? The physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual changes that happen that nobody talks about.
Trying to navigate motherhood, career, and my own mental health, it was too much.
There are approximately 3.6 million babies born every year in the United States of America. That's 3.6 million mothers born. Maybe not first-time mothers. Maybe this time it's moms of 2 or 3 or 4. Every time a woman gives birth, she evolves, and it's her first time again. Her first time nursing, her first time soothing a newborn while tying a toddler's shoes, a first time asking 2 ferocious children not to launch right off the sofa next to the bassinet. That's also 3.6 million women at risk for mortality or infant loss, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, postpartum psychosis, pelvic floor injury, preeclampsia, loss of their career, and feeling overwhelmingly isolated. What do we get to screen that? One bullshit 6-week checkup letting us know that we can get laid again. But let's bring it back. What does it take to get pregnant in the first place?
We had tried for 9 months to get pregnant, and in hindsight, it doesn't seem like a very long time in comparison to what I know a lot of other parents have experienced. But for me, the hardest part was, I remember distinctly sitting around a table and having family and friends tell us like, hey, sharing their happy announcements, and they're super excited, and like I was happy for them, but at the same time, my heart was also breaking because I was like, this is great, but like, what is wrong with me? Where's our baby?
There's an assumption that pregnancy is going to be relatively easy, right? Like conceiving will be relatively easy and pregnancy itself should be easy. And that's not everyone's experience.
It didn't happen for us until almost a year of trying, and every month me blaming myself for not conceiving, me looking to, dietitians and acupuncturists and going through all of this. No one expects that they're going to struggle. And so, we weren't in a rush, even though I was almost 30 when we got married. And so that was really, really tough because once we were ready, it didn't work. And so there was a lot of feelings of guilt and shame and anxiety and fear, and not a lot of places to turn to be held in those feelings.
We had trouble conceiving naturally, so I eventually sought out help at Boston IVF.
A simple, analysis 10 months later showed us that we were never going to conceive unassisted.
It started getting to the point where I started, asking questions.
Our diagnosis is a male factor diagnosis. And unfortunately, fertility treatments happen to women. So even though I don't require assistance to conceive, I had to go through IVF in order to conceive with him.
She was like, does your husband smoke any weed? Do you guys have a high stress environment? And that was when it started to click with me, like, hey, maybe there might not be something wrong with me, but like maybe there is something wrong, and it's not necessarily my fault, but like as a woman who's supposed to be the vessel for the child, that's not your default way of thinking.
So my pregnancy was very scheduled, very supported by the team there, and I felt so well taken care of, and I was so lucky to have that level of care from the moment that I got pregnant. And I know that a lot of women don't have that support.
I already blame myself so much. And then, it's a gift, I guess, to have a diagnosis in some regard because so many couples have unexplained infertility. But then, to be told you're going straight to IVF was kind of, a whiplash we weren't expecting either.
So for us, we didn't require IVF, thankfully. Instead, we learned that our factor had been stress. And as the pandemic hit, I lost my job. He lost his job. And, 2 weeks later, after being home and actually breathing and thinking about, okay, what our next steps were going to be and what we were going to do, we at this point had no idea. But then that was when we found out we were pregnant.
I finally conceived my son. It was June of 2020. So the clinic had been shut down for a few months, and then we had an embryo ready to go. So we were the first cases to have a transfer in the office. So now I am, having all this anxiety baseline because of my own experiences. I'm finally having a successful pregnancy, and what if I get COVID?
gave birth in April of 2020, 3 weeks into the COVID lockdown. I ended up having severe preeclampsia and had an emergency C-section to a preemie who ended up staying 3 weeks in the NICU during COVID.
When I got to the waiting room, I found that my doctor had forgotten to order a COVID test for me. And without them having one, they couldn't bring me into the operating room. So we wound up sitting there for a while, and after a period of time, I wound up having what I now understand was a panic attack. COVID protocol at the time is very strict. I was lucky just to have my husband in the room with me, which sounds absurd, right? Because again, you think about that moment for your whole life.
Delivered him in February of 2021 when healthcare workers had just had access to vaccines for the first time. So we were in the hospital not knowing, where else in the building there was COVID happening, right? And there were a lot of rules on labor and delivery and postpartum for our safety, which felt good, but we did not allow anyone in our home until they were vaccinated.
The trauma of a severe physical diagnosis of a pregnancy complication paired with the isolation of a global lockdown. I was stripped of all of my support network in my village that I was promised and never materialized.
My parents didn't even meet their first grandchild until he was 2 months old. And so we handled early postpartum ourselves, just the two of us.
That's not the way it's supposed to look at all.
No. I have pictures of our friends and people that were local, just dropping food and gifts at our front door and waving through the window and us showing him the baby through the window and be like, I wish you could come in and hold me or hold him. Like, this is such a big deal that he's here and we can't even really celebrate it.
It was a rough entry to motherhood.
This was one of the challenges with postpartum during all things pandemic. Like, you couldn't get the support even if it was available to you, right? There were so many concerns about what does it look like. Talk about anxiety. It was a grueling time for new families.
We're so isolated and we're so afraid and we're adjusting to this life that we've always dreamed about, and yet it's kind of tainted with this pandemic that nobody deserved to become a parent in.
It was such a source of conflict, right? That the people who were coming to visit and be supportive weren't willing to respond in what the couple identified as what they needed for support. They were, if I can't come and I can't kiss my grandchild, if I can't come and I can't, then never mind. I guess you don't want me. Like, there was so much hurt that happened during that time.
Good friends of ours kept their wedding in October of 2020. My husband was supposed to be a groomsman. This is like one of his very best friends in the world. And they decided to still have this wedding. And we had to make the choice not to participate because, I was 20 weeks pregnant or something and too afraid, and we're not willing to put our family at risk for this wedding, even though we love these people so much. And it just felt like, can we actually trust your judgment anymore? Is this fair for us to feel? Is this fair for you to feel? Like, that's just one example, but even our own even our own family and our parents who, of course, we're struggling with this too, and they're losing out on the experience of meeting their grandchild as, a day old, a week old, and them, expressing their frustration with us as well, and it just feeling completely unfair, but also like, can we trust you, in the same way that we thought we could, because you're dismissing this as not a real threat. And so do you not remember what it took for us to get here?
Mom, she lived with us the first year. Lifesaver, godsend, love my mom to death. Don't know if we would have survived without her. But my mom also works too. And she works in an urgent care at the height of COVID. So my mom would go to work, come home, strip her clothes, take a shower, and then come and help me feed the babies, change the babies. That way I could take a shower, I could do the laundry. If I had the kids still in the NICU, I could go visit whoever was left in the NICU.
The idea that you had to navigate through so much uncertainty, taking on a new role full of so much uncertainty. I'm like, how could you not feel overwhelmed doing that?
One of the most important things that I think you can do for your mental health, especially, as a new mom, is to get out of the house. And during the pandemic, like, you really couldn't go anywhere. I mean, even going to the playground felt like a risk when doctors were telling you that they don't know what can happen to your child if they contract this disease. So it was a really scary time. Looking back now, I wish I was able to get out more and find safe ways to get out.
We just worked so hard for this pregnancy. We've been through so much, and now the risk outside of these walls is so great. So how are we going to get through this? And luckily I was, working a job that went fully remote, working in a healthcare technology company, but there was so much pressure from the outside world to pretend everything was fine. And we were seeing that in our friends and our family who were like, whatever, COVID isn't a big deal, you're overreacting. And then it's like, okay, you're completely dismissing my experience.
Us at the time say, I don't know what it is, but I just feel like you're not dedicated in the way that you used to be. Like, well, what it is I have a 9-month-old and 2 full-time working parents working remotely and no daycare and no nanny, because we had a preemie who was in the NICU. We were extremely COVID cautious and basically quarantined ourselves for 2.5 years.
This was summer 2021. Vaccines weren't available yet for children, and it was very rampant even then. We were learning that it wasn't seasonal like the flu and everyone hoped it was going to be. But it was it felt like there was an obsession with me getting on a plane. Prove to us that you're a leader and go fly across the country to attend a Go Live. If you want to be advancing at this company, pretend you don't have kids. That was the message. The first thing he said to me besides welcome back was, when can you get on a plane?
Start traveling again and taking flights and going to conferences. When I had a child at home who was still unvaccinated and who I was still breastfeeding, I said, there is no way that I can travel.
They're not thinking about all the sacrifices you've made, what your body's experienced, where your mental health is, none of that.
It's a societal expectation, right? That idea that women can have it all. And so we don't talk about what it feels like. Somehow you're supposed to be thankful that you can have a family and have your career. And so the fact that you feel like it is sucking the life out of you is somehow secondary.